Hey there. Today we're going to learn how to compare fractions. When I'm comparing fractions, just as if I were comparing whole numbers, I'm going to use one of three symbols, either less than, greater than, or equal to. And in order to compare these two fractions that I have here, I can't use place value like I would in a whole number, because as we know, fractions are actually parts of a whole. So I can't use place value, but there are a few different ways that I could compare these two fractions. The first would be to simply use models. In this case, here I have my one half piece model and my three fourths model. And I can clearly see that the 3/4 model is much larger than the 1/2 model. So I would know that 3/4 is greater than 1/2, or 1/2 is less than 3/4. However, models aren't always the best way to determine if a fraction is greater than or less than another fraction. Another way that we could do it is to find what's known as a common denominator. So right now, I have uncommon denominators. This is 2 and this is 4. And when I have uncommon denominators, I can't compare the size of the fraction because I'm dealing with two different sized pieces. Here I'm dealing with pieces that are cut into fourths, and here I'm dealing with pieces that were cut into halves. So I can't compare two different sized pieces. But I could take my denominators and make them the same. So if I made them both fourths, I could write equivalent fractions that could compare. Here, an equivalent fraction to 1/2 that would include fourths. You see that I multiplied 2 by 2 to get to 4, so I would also need to multiply my numerator by 2 to find an equivalent fraction. Now that I have common denominators, I could compare, and I know that 3 is greater than 2, so 3/4 would be more than 2/4. In my opinion, though, there is an even easier way to compare these two fractions, and it's using a method that's known as cross multiplication. And when I cross multiply, I'm going to multiply the denominator of one fraction times the numerator of the other fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the opposite denominator by multiplying it by the opposite numerator. And 4 times 1 is 4. Then we can compare these two numbers, and whichever number is larger will be the larger fraction. In this case, 6 is larger than 4, so I would say that 1/2 is less than 3/4. Let's try a couple other examples. Here we have 8/12 and 2/3. Again, using the cross multiplying method, I'm going to multiply the denominator of one fraction times the numerator of the opposite fraction. 12 times 2 is 24. Again, I'm going to do multiply the denominator of my other fraction times the numerator of the first fraction, and 3 times 8 also is 24. Now, when I compare these two numbers, I see that they're actually equal to each other. So that means that 8/12 is equal to 2/3. Let's do one other example. 4/7 and 5/9. Again, I'm simply just going to multiply the denominator by the opposite numerator. 7 times 5 is 35. 9 times 4 is 36. When I compare these two numbers, I see that 36 is larger than 35, so therefore this fraction must be larger than this fraction. And I would say 4/7 is greater than 5/9.